Hello everyone from Boardwalk and Park Place. If you don't know who that little character on the screen is, go play a game of Monopoly, the board game. It's a classic and it has everything to do with what we're talking about today, which is Econ 101. And so our objective is really to ponder some limitations of our economy, the free market economy, especially when it comes to environmental issues. And so the word of the day, conundrum. Right there for you. It's a great vocabulary word, and we've got lots of conundrums with our economy. And so it's just basically a problem, difficult, confusing problems and issues to kind of get around. And so here we go. Our first question that we're going to address is just simply, what is an economy? And what that is a system of buying and selling goods and services. And so when you hear the word economy, here's what it should trigger: jobs, money, shopping, buying and selling. And so for AP purposes, we want to keep that separate from environmental issues. So economy is human-driven, environment not so. Even though these issues all intertwine, let's keep them separate for this. And so we've got two types of economies. We've got the free market economy on one side of a spectrum, and then you've got the socialism or socialist-based economy on the other side. And so just to start over here, laissez-faire is a term that I believe it was Adam Smith came up with back in the day, which means invisible hand. And the idea is that this economy is going to be driven and guided just by supply and demand. And so people want things, people supply things, and wherever the desires are and the supply is, that mechanism will move the economy. And one thing about that is that it encourages entrepreneurship. So we've got lots of creative people, brilliant people, evidenced by this laptop that I'm speaking into. I'm staring at this little green dot, which seems very strange and surreal. But moving forward, on the flip side, we've got the socialist-based economy, and that's basically you've got a centrally planned economy and society. And so think of like a think tank of people. A group of people are getting together and they're planning out what they think everybody in the country is going to need, from food and clothing to everything. And that's a little bit harder to do. But underlying what they're trying to do is that the intention is to really give people equal access to the resources and to make that work in a fair way. And it doesn't usually quite work out that way, but that's the intention. And let's face it, here in the United States, which is more over here, we've got a classist society in many ways. We've got some very wealthy people, and then we've got a lot of people that are living in poverty. And so they're trying to remove that over here. And so, another thing about this economy is that just a problem with socialism is that it doesn't respond very fast to different things that happen. And so I'm going to give you an example. Right now we've got wildfires burning, especially in California. So now over in Yosemite, there's a ripping fire happening right now. I can promise you, in addition to like the Forest Service and like city-based firefighters there are private firefighters that have their own trucks, pickup trucks and things like that they've rigged up for, with hoses and whatever tools they need, that are showing up from everywhere, from Arizona, New Mexico, Washington, Nevada. They all come in and they're profit driven. They want to make money. You gotta, maybe you're a contractor or something like that. You just happen to have a little bulldozer. You're showing up and the government's hiring you on the spot and you're digging fire line because they need you right now. A centrally planned government can't respond that fast. Also, all those firefighters, they're going to get hungry. So now here comes the catering, and they're going to get dirty. And so they're setting up bathrooms and showers and camps and all the different things. And that's basically profit driven. People want to make money off that. And there's a whole bunch of examples that you can think of that around. Also, in a socialist economy, it encourages a black market because, as smart and wise as those central planners are, they're not going to think of everything. And so a store that people want or demand. And so just a quick example, I heard back in the USSR days in Russia, Levi jeans, Levi's, were super in demand, and actually anything with the Beatles, like Beatles albums or even just a picture of the Beatles, people wanted it. And so if you showed up to Russia with a suitcase full of Levi's and Beatles albums, you're making money on the black market, which is illegal. The government doesn't want it, but it still happens. And so that we're going to move on from there. And I guess the last point on this actually is that China is, a socialist country, or Cuba. although it's not pure socialism, right? If you look over here, here's a shopping mall in China. It's like, does that look like a communist country? It's like people have money, so something's going on there. And we hear about the Chinese economy is like growing and growing and growing, and a lot of the things we buy, most of them are coming from China, and so it's not definitely not pure socialism. In the United States, it's definitely not a free market, and people complain about that all the time. And it's like, think of all the taxes and the tariffs. And the different treaties that are happening, and so in regulations, sometimes too much. Some people say too little, but it's not all the way over here. So think of this as a spectrum. Okay. One last thing to cover on this section of the lecture is supply and demand. And so the idea of a free market is that this is what's pushing the market, guiding it. And so let's just take Toyota for an example. Toyota Priuses, which are very popular. And so here's Toyota's supply, or the amount of Priuses they're making. If they make this many Priuses, let's just say it's 50,000, which is not nearly enough for the world. There's not enough to go around, and people really want them. And so there's some people out there that'll pay high dollar for the Prius, just like in Russia, people pay high dollar for the Levi's if there's not enough, if there's nothing around. But Toyota knows if they make even more, they can make more money in the long run. But if they make too much, if they make like 100 million, which is way too much, now they got leftover supply, and the more that's out there, now they're just not worth as much, and so people don't pay as much. And so they've got a whole team of market analysts that are trying to find out where is that happy little place in the middle to where they can max out on their profit and not end up with anything left over at the end. And all companies are doing this. Companies that are staying in business, it's not by accident. They're profit driven. They need to make money to stay afloat. So that's going to be part one for us, but come back for part two, because really what it's all about is what is the environmental rub with having economies like that. But thank you so far, and we'll see you here in a second.